Last quick thing before we wrap up, and we got to wrap up because we're almost out of time here. But I call this COVID tyranny continues. And I could spend this whole show, I could spend this whole week's shows telling you all sorts of different stories of things happening around the country because of the orders that are put in place by governors, mayors, elected officials across this country that are forcing healthy people to stay home, that are saying no travel except for essential reasons, all non-essential businesses shut down, can't go outside your house unless we say so. And so they have very draconian, very limited, very, very un-American type rules in place, which are causing more and more protests to happen. People saying, I need my business open. We have a big battle going on in Dallas County. We still have in Texas, through whatever illogical basis of reasoning, our governor has said some businesses open, some not. And so you can't have hairdressers and nail salons open. And there's actually a hairdresser here in Dallas County who is protesting, who is staying open anyway. She just won't close. She's gotten a couple of criminal citations. She just ignores them. She keeps on going forward. They haven't dared arrest her yet. But this is, when I say tyranny, people kind of, I know many people are using that term tyranny. People say, well, that's ridiculous. Tyranny is like when you're rounding up people and sending them into prison. And that's not really true. Tyranny, the idea is, it's inconsistent with the rule of law in this country and inconsistent with, in this country, the presumption of reasoned rule of law, that we have rights to live freely, to function freely, to move about freely, and they can only be limited in an emergency circumstance. But we're talking about COVID-19, and coronavirus is going to be an emergency circumstance that's going to count for, who knows, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We're all going to stay home. It becomes tyranny. And then the conduct of some officials is especially egregious. Last clip of the day, this is a governor doing a press conference, and he's being asked, well, you'll hear the question, but this is Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker asked a question. He's a billionaire, and his wife has some kind of ranch in Florida where they raise horses, and so they're into horses. So this is a question that the governor got. I want you to hear what he had to say in response. This is Governor Pritzker, Illinois.
Mark Conkle with the patch says, where's the First Lady? Is she accompanied by a state security detail? Has she engaged in non-essential travel? What is your response to people who say the stay-at-home order and non-essential travel bans aren't being abided by your family? I believe there's a report from Illinois Rising Action that says that she recently traveled to Florida.
Well, first of all, I want to say that in politics, it used to be that we kept our families out of it. My official duties have nothing to do with my family. So I'm just not going to answer that question. It's inappropriate, and I find it reprehensible, honestly, that reporter wrote a story about it.
Okay.
And what he is saying in plain English is the rules apply to you, not to me. Rules for thee, not for me. I am the ruling elite. My wife can fly down to Florida to play with her horses while everybody else in the state has to stay on lockdown. He'd be making a good point about it's not really relevant for reporters to be asking about his personal family if people were asking, like, what did your daughter get in her geometry final last year? Or, how much does your wife weigh? Things that you don't have a right to ask, intrude into people's privacy. The reporter was making a great point that this guy is saying, I'm going to inflict on the people of this state rules and orders that don't apply to me. The absolute opposite of the rules of law in America. Very similar, last little COVID tyranny story, and then we'll go to why it matters to you. But there was a mother she lives in a trailer park to start with. She and her daughter wanted to have a play date at the park. They were harassed. They had police threatening them. And anyway, she ultimately decided to get her daughter, who's been holed up in their trailer park home, to a playground. There's nobody else there. There's no one she could be infecting, but she's out at a playground, and she was arrested. Not kidding, arrested. This is what tyranny is. This is the reason why it's so important for people to keep protesting and standing up, because people like in that county and around this country, all the stories we have been telling you, there are people who feel perfectly justified and in fact enjoy inflicting harsher and harsher rules simply because they can, including California Governor Newsom, who actually got mad at the citizens of Huntington Beach area. So he ordered the beaches are open in California, but not in this one area where the protest was, because protesters showed up and went to the beach anyway. He opened all the rest of the beaches except the one where the protesters were. They're shut down. This is a power-driven. This is a guy who's loving his power, loving his ability to control, manipulate people because he can. This is what happened. This is tyranny, my friends.